to Stephen for autograph. So it's a Q&A session now. So there's 2 mics in the hall. One is on your right hand side, and one is holding now. So feel free to throw in some questions.
Can be about absolutely anything. So if you have trouble with your boyfriend, I will fix it. It is true. I know it's not easy.
Okay, to know well enough our local audience, I've been told to prepare some questions myself. Okay, so I have scribbled down a couple of questions which I would like to ask. In one of your interviews, it says that you actually stated in your diary you're going to stop to do all the shitty job and then do some good design. And since that statement, how it has changed your career? I mean, that statement actually stated in his diary, probably in year 2000, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, they just printed a T-shirt out of that statement in Jakarta. Well, I'm afraid. Well, let me see. No, I think at the time we did more crap than we do now. I think that, well, I had many different states in my career. I would say that when I was working by myself after school, I was satisfied with, I don't know, a fairly high percentage of the things we did, or at least, maybe I was not satisfied with it, but it was as good as I could do it at the time. Then when I worked at Leo Burnett in Hong Kong, I was maybe satisfied with 5% of what we did, and I was disgusted with 70% of the stuff that we did. Not only, also because I had no relation to it, you know, like I worked for clients that I couldn't care less if they would do well or not well for projects. And in the studio, I think in the beginning of it, we did more crap than we do now. It's still, I think, in the last couple of years, I have to really think if that is true, but I think we didn't do some real crap. But we did definitely sort of like just above mediocre. And it's mostly, I think, it's our fault. Like sometimes it's really difficult to do things that you're satisfied with. Simply because it's difficult to do good things. It's much easier to do mediocre. And in the beginning of the studio, we actually had one client who wanted mediocre, which was fantastic. Because if the client can state that, if you don't have to start good and then get it watered down to mediocre, if you can do mediocre from the beginning, and they have good budgets, it's fantastic, and they paid for a lot of the other things. No, actually it's not true. We did a real piece of crap last year. But again, it was extremely high paying. Oh, and it's a nice story too. Okay, then I quickly tell this. Do you guys know who Jay-Z is?
Yes.
Is he famous here? The rapper?
No.
So Jay-Z's office called and said, oh, they want us to do the CD cover. And we did, at that time, this was last year, so we didn't do any CD covers anymore. And I said, no, you know, we don't do any CD covers anymore. And they said, oh, but wouldn't you at least want to meet with him? I said, well, I'll always meet with Jay-Z, I never met a rapper. So the next day I was going up, and it was very much like you would think it would be. You know, the gigantic office, white leather. Turned out to be a nice guy. And I couldn't, nobody, it had heard from his office, had told him that we're not going to do the CD cover. So he basically just went ahead and said, this is what I want, blah, 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 blah. And basically what he wanted was the book. He had the Made You Look book, that book with the red thing on the cover, and he wanted that trick. And I said, well, it's not so interesting for us to do this. I couldn't really say I'm not doing it at all because I was afraid to make one of his underlings look really bad. So I said, well, I'm not really going to do the same trick again. He had quite a good argument against it. He said, well, I often do things in a small way and then redo them in a large way. So in any case, I went home not having said one thing or another, and the next day I thought I'll just send him a ridiculously expensive estimate and they're going to go away. So I sent him an estimate for 97,000 US dollars. 3 days later, 2 days later, they called, not him of course, but his people, and said, you're out of your mind. This is ridiculous. The most we've ever paid was for a Bon Jovi cover, and that we only paid so much because it needed so many changes and difficulties, and that cost us $50,000, and even we think this is already totally ridiculous, we would be willing to pay you $50,000. And I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not interested. And another reason why I wasn't interested, aside from the fact that we don't do CD covers anymore, was that it had a very tight deadline. So it only had 3 weeks to do the whole thing. And, you know, and I was gone for much of those 3 weeks. I had already committed to be in Brazil, blah, blah. So then they call another week later. So by now we have wasted 10 days. And they say, well, Jay-Z is actually paying for out of his pocket, so he's willing to up it to 75. And I said, no, sorry, I'm not interested. And then they called another 3 days later. By now we have, I think, 5 days left. And they say, okay, Jay-Z pays the rest of it. Let's do the whole thing. So we designed it quickly. It was not very good. We took our name off the cover, so now it says designed by 97,000. But the nice thing about it was that this was in December 2006, and it meant that we didn't have to worry about January, February, March, April. Because my studio had about $22,000 overhead. So for 4 months, basically, we could just, you know, fuck about or, you know, do things we like. It was a very long answer to you.